Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. James here, and I was going through some old articles and some old stories that I was publishing a while ago, and I realized that I haven't really shared my journey from gaming addiction in my early childhood and teens to what happened at university and to now where I'm living in Thailand, working online and kind of doing things that I never really thought possible. So I thought with this video I'd kind of take you through that process along that path that I took myself to maybe shed some clarity, some maybe you can find some familiarity with it in your own story, see some similarities between us, and I can kind of share how I went through countless relapses, detoxes, trying to moderate my gaming, to finally figuring out how to be free of video games once and for all and get to this point. So, where did it all start? Well, I guess the first memory I have of playing a video game was when I was around 3 or 4 years old. And back then it was just something you did with the family, maybe once a week, once or twice a week on some old retro consoles like the Mega Drive or the Nintendo 64, the Dreamcast, like those kind of things. And from there, I never really had any problems as a child. I was always active, I was always outdoors, I was always playing and happy and like always taking part in things, and that would continue through my childhood, through my early teens, until I hit around about 15 or 16, I guess. But for the most part, my childhood was pretty active, pretty free of gaming. It was just a pastime that you kind of enjoyed with the family, and nothing really more than that. But it wasn't until the rise of online gaming, especially in the consoles, because I know it was a big thing on PCs for a while, with like Quake and World of Warcraft and all that stuff. But going online with consoles like the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, that was the first generation really where it took off. And games like Call of Duty 4, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Halo, like that's when things really kind of blew up in the world of gaming. And I think Call of Duty 4 is still one of the top selling games of all time, or maybe Call of Duty 6, I don't know. But that was when I started noticing problems. Although, while I had problems with depression and anxiety and these kind of things, I never really equated them to gaming. I was always a star student, I was in the top of my class, I was always in a load of friendship groups. Like I was friends with pretty much everyone at school, and I was still active. I was still playing football and doing other clubs and activities and staying on top of things, having girlfriends and great relationships. But at 16 or 17, that's when things really started taking a turn for the worse. And I found myself going through pretty bad periods of depression, whether that was related to like going through puberty and experiencing all these things, I don't really know. But what I found was that I was escaping from the stress, from the difficulties I was experiencing in school, and I was escaping into video games as a way to cope. They were my coping mechanism to get over it, because I'd never really been taught how to overcome stress and how to like break through problems and solve challenges and build discipline. And gaming was my way to like not have to deal with any of that. I was smart enough that I could get through school without really paying too much attention to it. And from what I've seen in the community, I know a lot of guys and girls that I've spoken to kind of echo that statement. They were usually pretty bright at school. They could get by and they didn't have to worry too much about keeping up on top of work. They could just play games, which is what they really wanted to do. And over time, I started becoming known as like the gamer. I was spending less time being active. My relationships suffered. I was becoming bitter, jealous, angry, resentful, selfish. And this was like 17, 18, just as I was going to university, which is when I kind of thought things would solve themselves and I'd become a new person. I could reinvent myself. But as is so often the case, our problems tend to follow us no matter where we go. And the first bit of university was fantastic. I was productive and staying on top of work and making great friends. And God, it was incredible. But then I started spending more time gaming because basically I had more freedom and I had a lot of free time at university. Admittedly, I should have been spending that time studying if I wanted to get a good grade, but the first year of university, regardless of the degree, especially I was studying physics, and a lot of it is just trying to catch everyone up, get everyone up to the same speed. So because I was already kind of ahead, I fell into the same trap. I I allowed myself to fall back into gaming as a way to kill time, as a way to escape from my problems, as a way to do these like avoid social situations which I was kind of uncomfortable with because I'd spent the last couple of years avoiding social situations. And the result of that is that I would start canceling plans with friends. I would start ignoring them. Like I wouldn't go out drinking or go to the club and go play sports. Instead, I would choose to spend my time playing video games in the comfort of my own room. Because there was no one there to keep me accountable, there was no one there to hold me to this discipline, to make sure that I was doing the work, staying on top of my grades. I was free to do what I wanted, basically, and what that was choosing to play video games. So every single night, near enough, I would stay up until 2 or 3 a.m. Even though I had work to do, I had sheets to hand in and give to my professors. Even though I still had that work to do, I would still find myself gaming until 3 a.m. the night before, and then starting the work then. And then I'd finish at around 5 a.m., sleep for a few hours, go and hand the work in before, I think our deadline was 10 a.m. And then I'd go back to bed, I'd miss lectures, and I'd skip my college duties so that I could just catch up on the sleep that I'd missed from gaming. And university was where I really fell into the depth of my depression. Gaming kind of destroyed my relationships. I still had some good friends, some close friends, guys that I knew, but I never really learned to escape that mentality that I actually had to do work to find success. I never built the discipline to avoid gaming, and up until that point, I'd never even considered that gaming could be a problem. I never thought that I was addicted to gaming. That was almost laughable. The thought that someone could be addicted to video games was crazy. But then I came across, I think it was an article, or a video rather, in the second year of university, which I kind of tout as the turning point of my life, when I was 19 or 20 years old, and came across a video of a guy called Tai Lopez, who was famous for that. He's holding his camera up, it's here in my garage, just brought a new Lamborghini. You probably know the video. And what that video did was show me that there was a world outside of university and gaming that I've never been exposed to. It was a world of self-improvement, personal development, good habits, fitness, health, motivation, working online. And that was my gateway into this industry. But the gaming problems didn't stop there. While I built some good habits to begin with and I started changing my mindset into a growth mindset, gaming still had a hold over me. And initially I came across Cam's work with Game Quitters. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that. And I tried a 90-day detox, which turned into an 8-month detox from gaming, which was incredible. It was the best time of my life. But after that began a constant relapse cycle for 5 years now, where I would have 3 months of productivity and inspiration. I'd try a new project and I'd start a new business idea or something I've been thinking of. And then I would start thinking, oh, perhaps I can moderate my gaming. Maybe I can bring back gaming into my life. And I've got all these amazing habits now. Maybe I can turn gaming into a healthy form of relaxation for myself. But that was never the case. I would always find myself relapsing, going back into video games for months on end. And it would begin a cycle of depression, stress, anxiety, and poor relationships, and anger, and bitterness, and resentment, and all of these negative emotions that come from falling into the throes of video games. And I eventually went on to like drop out of university, which I I made the choice to do. I kind of stopped putting the time into it in the third year, and while I was given so many opportunities to succeed at university, to finish my thesis and all my exams, and people were so supportive of me, I I thought there was something better for me out there, this world of online business and entrepreneurship. So that's what I wanted to pursue. So I dropped out of university, kept playing games, went back to my old job as a waiter while trying to build up these things on the side. And honestly, those couple of years were a blur. I don't remember a lot from that period of like 22 to 23, 24. It's really hazy. I was working as a waiter, a bartender, and at one point went down to work in Cardiff on a friend's business, help him out starting a restaurant, which was ultimately where I got into Twitch streaming, and that was probably the worst time of my life. I got some success on Twitch, which you might think, oh, that's incredible, well done. But what that did to me physically and mentally, I was playing video games from 2 p.m. till 4 a.m. every single day. And while I was earning money and getting people following me, it was destructive. And I became so horribly depressed that I had some pretty bad thoughts. I contemplated some pretty drastic things that I didn't really want to, or I'd never really had that side of myself. I'd never been that kind of person, but the gaming addiction brought out the worst parts of myself. And I knew that I had to stop. Otherwise, I probably might not be here today giving you this video. And that kind of turning point came in the form of a 3-week expedition to Canada. I'd signed up to this a year ago and just kind of put it off. Hadn't done any hiking, hadn't been outdoors preparing for it. And all of a sudden it came around. 3 weeks in the wilderness of the Yukon with a couple of dozen other people split into teams, just hiking, camping, exploring, and with no technology, not even a phone or any internet, any music players, any yeah, and any iPods or any devices to play music. And it was the most amazing experience of my life. That was, I finished that 3-week trip with the most renewed sense of clarity and vision and focus and inspiration that I had ever experienced in my life. I felt incredible. And I was so ready to come back to the UK, start working on my business, start turning this restaurant into the best thing that it could be. And I get back to Cardiff and I realized that I'd lost my job. I hadn't been paid, my rent hadn't gone through. I was about to lose my flat. I had 2 weeks to move out, and my whole life kind of turned upside down. So what did I do? Went back to gaming. I was forced to move back to my parents' house, take up my old job as a waiter, and after a couple of weeks of just twiddling my thumbs, playing video games, trying to make sense of what was going on, I still had these lingering thoughts, this lingering inspiration and motivation from that trip to Canada. And I started researching ways that I could get out of this trap. And the first thing I came up with was learning to code. So I pretty much just threw myself headfirst into it while working 10 hours a day at the restaurant. In my breaks before work, I would go home, I would learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript with the aim of becoming a web designer. And 5 months after I started, I got my first client, quit my job as a waiter, and that was the first time I'd earned money online, my first foray into the world of online business. 4 years after I started learning about it, and it felt incredible. And while gaming wasn't out of my life completely, I still had cravings and urges and was still playing in my spare time, go through that relapse cycle. I was beginning to see what could happen if I just applied myself to something better and focused on learning a skill, which is something that I get people to do a lot when I talk to them, when I go through my teachings with them. Teachings. I'm not some kind of like Gandhi, like Buddhist figure. When I go through like this training, I emphasize learning skills instead of hobbies. And this is one of the reasons why it gives you a clear focus and measurable results, which is what I was getting from this for the first time ever. And it felt great. And not long after that, I was approached by Cam from Game Quitters. I still kept in touch with him, and he approached me to do some work, like marketing work, to learn more about it, to boost my skills, and introduced me to this idea that I could move to Thailand and work remotely, which had never even crossed my mind in the past. I thought it was impossible to live in Thailand and work online. And while it's not technically legal, like keep it on the down low, but it's so much easier than I thought at the time that pretty much soon after that, I booked my flight, a one-way flight to Thailand, gave myself a few months to get things in order, get some savings, and that began my journey into the world of online business. Now, since year and a half since that point, since I came to Thailand, my life was still fraught with gaming addiction, relapses, trying to detox, and it brings me to this point now, after multiple failures, multiple ventures, learning everything I could about SEO and going on my own and building an amazing life with digital marketing through that honing of my skills. And I did eventually leave Game Quitters and go my own way. But what I've learned in that time about video game addiction was that I've been going about it in completely the wrong way, basically. You see, when you frame quitting in terms of detoxing and going that route, you're setting yourself up to fail from the start. And it's taken me a long time, 6 years, to realize this. But there's always that thought in your head that you might return to video games. There's always that, what if I can eventually moderate it? What if I go through this detox and I have the power to turn it into an amazing hobby that's like a healthy part of my life? But as a gaming addict, deep down we know that that's never the case. But by constantly doing a detox, by constantly going through these relapse cycles where our brain still thinks that there's a way back, it still thinks there's a possible route for us to get back to video games. And that's what ultimately causes you the problems. And until you can break free of that mindset and start focusing on building a better life yourself, becoming your own hero, until that point, you'll be stuck in that constant cycle. And it's something I wish I knew early on. I hope my journey kind of resonates with you, that the path of mid to late teens, kind of getting addicted to gaming, console gaming, online gaming, using it as an escape, but always managing to get by at school, being a bright kid, and then seeking it as an escape in university or college or whatever you're doing now, because you've got all that freedom and you've got the time to invest into gaming, and you never really equate that gaming could be the source of your problems, be the source of your discipline issues, be the source of your depression, anxiety, motivation, friendship groups not being where you want them to be. Gaming plays a part in everything. But when we're so deep into the addiction, so deep into the conditioning, it's so difficult for us to realize that. And by making this video, I hope that some of you can kind of resonate with my story and take an objective view of your life and evaluate the impact that gaming is having on you, whether it's helping you or harming you. And ultimately, until you break through that conditioning and break through that mindset of constantly fighting against video games and gaming addiction and detoxing and relapsing and detoxing and relapsing in non-stop battle, until you can do that and really learn this mindset shift, until you do that, you'll never truly be game free. And if you want to learn more about how to do that, become game free and take control of gaming. I've recently set up a group on Facebook, a private members only group that you can go and join for free down below. We're starting to get some amazing members in there now, and I can't wait to see it grow into an awesome community. And I'll be sharing some free training with you guys soon. It's like the culmination of all of my learnings and everything I've done over the last 6 years, my mistakes, the things I'd wish I'd known. And it will give you a step-by-step roadmap of exactly how to implement this new mindset shift into your life and ultimately become game free. So if you want access to that, make sure you subscribe to the Facebook group, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Comment down below your story with gaming and addiction and how it's impacted you, your relationships, your feelings, emotions, your opportunities, if it's had an impact at all. I'd love to hear what you guys are struggling with. Maybe I can help you out with that. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.